Hollywood has always been a place of glamour and secrets. It's where stars rise quickly, where the spotlight can make someone a household name, and where just as easily those same stars can disappear, fading into the background of history. One of the strangest stories from the early days of Hollywood is about a woman named Margaret Gibson. She was a silent film actress who had her moment in the 1910s and 1920s, only to slip into obscurity. For decades, her name was hardly remembered. Then, out of nowhere in the 1960s, her name resurfaced, connected to a confession that tied her to one of Hollywood's most notorious murders. Gibson's career started in the 1910s. She appeared in a string of silent films, often westerns, where she acted alongside stars like Tom Mix. She wasn't a household name like Mary Pickford or Gloria Swanson, but she worked steadily. In those days, Hollywood was still being built, literally. The studios were just forming, stars were just beginning to be marketed, and the industry was figuring out how to turn flickering reels into an empire. Margaret was part of that world, an actress who was known well enough to earn roles but not so famous that she broke through to the top tier of stardom. As the 1920s rolled on, silent films reached their peak, but Margaret's career did not. She changed her name several times, using Patricia Palmer and Patsy Palmer among others, perhaps to reinvent herself, perhaps to distance herself from her past. She had brushes with the law, including an arrest for alleged extortion, though nothing that ever turned into a long prison sentence. Still, her reputation in Hollywood wasn't spotless, and in an industry obsessed with image, that was enough to dim her chances of staying in the limelight. By the time sound came in, her acting career was basically over. While Margaret faded into the background, Hollywood was rocked in 1922 by a crime that would become one of its most infamous cold cases, the murder of William Desmond Taylor. Taylor was a popular director at the time, a man who had worked with major stars and was well respected in the business. One evening, he was found dead in his bungalow in Westlake, shot in the back. The murder sent shockwaves through Los Angeles. Newspapers ran wild with speculation. Was it jealousy? A love triangle? Was it tied to drugs or to blackmail? The studio system was terrified of the scandal, so they tried to control the narrative, but the rumors only grew. Dozens of names were connected to the case. Famous actresses like Mabel Normand and Mary Miles Minter were dragged into the spotlight, accused of affairs or secret meetings with Taylor. The tabloids loved it. It was salacious, dramatic, and it made Hollywood look like a city of sin. Police investigated, but the case stalled. Leads went nowhere, suspects were cleared or ignored, and eventually, the case went cold. Taylor's murder was never solved, and it became one of those stories that people whispered about for decades. And then, in 1964, more than 40 years after Taylor's death, Margaret Gibson suddenly stepped back into the story. She had been living quietly in Hollywood, no longer a star, no longer even in the industry. That October, she suffered a heart attack at her home. Neighbors rushed to her side, and as she lay there, she made a shocking statement. She told them that she had killed William Desmond Taylor. Just like that, no buildup, no long explanation, just a confession in her final hours. The people around her were stunned. This was a woman they knew only as an aging former actress, someone whose past wasn't widely discussed. And here she was, claiming responsibility for one of the most talked about murders in Hollywood history. Margaret died soon after, leaving behind no further explanation, no evidence, and no way to confirm what she said. The confession was explosive, but it left more questions than answers. Why had she never come forward before? Was she telling the truth, or was it the rambling of someone in distress at the end of her life? She had known Taylor. She had worked in the same circles in the early 1920s. Her background included brushes with crime, so it wasn't impossible that she could have been involved, but there was nothing concrete tying her to the scene. No witnesses, no proof, no motive that had ever been publicly established. Historians and true crime writers have debated her confession ever since. Some think it was genuine, that after decades of silence, she finally wanted to clear her conscience. Others think it was nothing more than a final, desperate attempt to be remembered, to attach herself to a story bigger than her own fading career. Without evidence, there's no way to know for sure. What makes the story so haunting is the way it ties together two very different eras of Hollywood. In the 1920s, the Taylor murder symbolized the city's darker underbelly, a scandal that reminded people that beneath the glamour, Hollywood was messy and dangerous. By the 1960s, Hollywood had changed entirely. Color films, television, and a new generation of stars had taken over. But here was Margaret Gibson, a relic of the silent era, dragging everyone back to that unsolved crime. Her confession also highlighted how many stories in Hollywood's history are left unresolved. Taylor's murder, like the later Black Dahlia case, became part of LA's mythology, a story retold in books, movies, and endless speculation. Margaret's role in it, if any, only deepened the mystery. She left behind no written confession, no details that could be verified, just words spoken as her life slipped away. Even today, more than a century after Taylor's murder and decades after Gibson's death, the case fascinates people. It's not just about who pulled the trigger, it's about the image of Hollywood itself. The city built its reputation on glitz and glamour, but stories like this one pull back the curtain. They show a world of ambition, jealousy, secrecy, and sometimes tragedy. Margaret Gibson's story is sad in its own right. She was a young actress who had promise, but her career never took off the way she might have hoped. She drifted through Hollywood, took on new names, tried to reinvent herself, but never found the fame she chased. And then, at the end, she tied her name to a murder that had hung over the city for 40 years. Whether she was telling the truth or not, it ensured that her name would be remembered, though not for the work she did on screen. In the end, Margaret Gibson is one of those figures who remind us that Hollywood history is made up not just of legends, but of forgotten faces. Some stars shine brightly, others fade, and some resurface in ways nobody could have predicted. Her confession may never be proven, and William Desmond Taylor's murder may remain unsolved forever. But the moment she spoke those words, she connected herself to one of Hollywood's oldest mysteries, ensuring her name would echo long after the lights of the silent era had gone dark.